What if you could live without breathing? At a hospital in Boston, a doctor has developed injectable oxygen, an absolute medical game changer that in the emergency room or the battlefield could save countless lives. But what if we let our imaginations run wild? Could injectable oxygen mean the creation of a new super soldier? One that never gets winded, can acclimate to any altitude quickly, and pushes human endurance to the limits? Or what about next level sports enhancement? Olympic records shattered, endurance redefined, and human limits rewritten. Or could injectable oxygen lead to the equivalent of human gills, with humans able to swim on the ocean floor without ever having to come up for air? Death used to be defined as the stopping of a heartbeat and breathing. By definition, would injectable oxygen be able to bring the dead back to life?
Dr. John Kheir is the Senior Associate Cardiologist at the Department of Cardiology at Boston Children's Hospital, as well as the Associate Professor of Pediatrics at Harvard Medical School. He is also the man responsible for potentially one of the most significant medical advancements of our time. As the developer of injectable oxygen, I sat down with Dr. Kheir to ask him these very questions. So, John, what inspired the idea of injectable oxygen? Like, was there a specific case or a moment that sparked it?
Yeah. So I came to Boston in 2006, and I never really sort of intended to do research. I was primarily focused on learning how to take care of patients. And pretty early on, I think it was October of 2006, I was taking care of a patient who I tell a story about in other venues. Her name was Jordan. She was a little girl who basically was in the hospital for complications after a liver transplant. She had just basically gotten a common virus. And unfortunately, because she was immunocompromised because of her liver transplant, she had a pretty significant complication of that called a pulmonary hemorrhage, which is where there's some damage to parts of the lung that start to bleed into the lung itself. And that, of course, creates what's called a diffusion deficit, which means that air that she breathed in can't get into her bloodstream. And that happens in not only in pulmonary hemorrhage, but in other forms of pneumonia, lung injury. Patients who died from COVID died for that same sort of phenomenon. And so she was in the intensive care unit. And a little bit about my background is that I used to be a paramedic when I was in college and medical school. And when patients would not do well in the pre-hospital setting, you would think, oh, well, that's really because we were outside the hospital or because the people weren't as trained. Paramedics are exceptionally well trained, but, you have a limited armamentarium of things you can do in the back of an ambulance or even in the streets. So when I came to the hospital, I was kind of under this false illusion that, now that we're in the hospitalized setting, we can do anything. And all the technology, like medicine, this is a very naive thing to think, but medicine is tip top. It solved all the problems, which of course is untrue. But to like my naive 2006 brain, that was kind of where my thought process was. So when we encountered this patient, it was in the intensive care setting. Boston Children's is an incredible hospital. There was an incredible team on. Even though it was a Saturday night, all the prime people were there, all the people you would choose if you were choosing a top tier team. And I was just there to, witness the whole thing. And it was crazy because we did everything exactly right. But unfortunately, her oxygen levels were too low for too long. And her brain was severely injured because of that. And she unfortunately died. And I do have permission from her mom to tell this story. So that night that she died, which was a couple of days later, I just remember still like it was yesterday, sitting in our call room, just like so mad. I was so mad. I was like, that was such a dumb way for a precious life to be lost. Like all we needed was to bridge that like 20 minutes from when this event started to like getting her onto life support. Why wasn't there a way to get oxygen into her bloodstream? And in that setting, of course, there was no way we tried to get oxygen into her bloodstream. She had a breathing tube in, we were giving her all big breaths and all the things, 100% oxygen. But, there was like her lungs weren't working. And so I just sort of simplistically said, well, why isn't there a way that we can inject oxygen? And so the first thing I did was Google liquid oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
which is like negative 800 degrees or something crazy like that. So I was like, all right, well, that's off the table. You can't inject that. And then I started researching, can you inject gas bubbles into the bloodstream? And found that there were people who had created microbubbles for different reasons, like contrast agents for ultrasound.
Yeah.
And then I sent about 50 emails to all these different places saying like, hey, I'm a doctor. I'm trying to solve this problem. What do you think about injecting gas bubbles into the bloodstream? Eventually found some people who I could collaborate with. We got it off the ground, and then, you know, we were off to the races.
It's amazing that even as a someone as accomplished as you are, that you just Googled, does this exist?
Yeah.
And were you shocked when you found that something that you just thought of as being like, why don't we just do this?
Yeah.
That it wasn't out there?
No, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, like, why would you think to do that if you weren't encountering a patient like this? And look, I mean, we're like 19 years down the road now. And so it's obviously not easy to do this. But
Were there moments where you said, this just isn't going to work? In the 19 years,
so many moments, so many moments.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Dozens of moments at least.
So in the 19 years,
Yeah.
take me to your latest success.
Mhm.
Like take me to where you are now after 19 years
Okay.
of probably questioning whether this could ever happen.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, having to deal with red tape and just the things that come with trying to develop anything, much
Yeah.
less something that is injected into the human body.
Yeah.
Where are you now with this?
Okay, well, let me talk about some of the hurdles and failures before we get to where we are now, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
of course.
So, you know, we started off with micro bubbles that were really, really easy to make. So if you think about it, like when you go to the bathroom and wash your hands with some soap, you rub your hands together and that friction basically creates soap bubbles.
Mhm.
That happens because soap is a surfactant, which has basically two edges to it, if you will. One edge is a long lipid chain, which likes to face a gas phase. And then another part of that molecule is polar, so it likes water. So that's why they form bubbles. That's what's called a surfactant. So we started off creating micro bubbles that were really small, with common surfactants that are used to make micro bubbles for lots of different things.
Yeah.
And they were really easy to make. So we had a lot of success in the manufacturing early on.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we took those into the animal lab, and I was a total rookie. Oh my gosh, such a rookie when it came to animal experimentation, and learned a lot in that sort of phase of my career. And so we had a lot of success. You know, I got that first paper was basically, hey, we can make these things, we can inject them in the setting of what's called asphyxia, which is basically like not being able to take a breath.
Yeah.
And we were able to show that we kept a rabbit alive for 15 or 12 minutes or something like that. And so that was cool. That was really exciting.
Yeah.
The problem is that there were so many practical problems with that technology that it was never going to become a drug. So one problem is that, as you might imagine, soap bubbles are not very stable in storage. So we tried all sorts of things. We tried to stabilize them with chemistry. We tried to freeze them and then thaw them when we would use them. We tried increasing the viscosity, all sorts of different things, and nothing worked. So it was just like it was never going to work. So we spent many years trying to sort of stabilize that technology and show that it would work, and it just couldn't. So the storage problem was one problem. Probably the bigger problem, because you could figure out a way to manufacture them like on demand when you needed them.
Yeah.
The bigger problem really is that if the titration of the drug had to be matched exactly to the blood flow rate.
Okay.
So if I explain it in a
To an idiot like me.
No, in a different way for like lay people.
I'm as lay as it gets.
If you think of the bloodstream, maybe like a river.
Okay.
Okay. If the river, or maybe like a faucet is a better example. So if the faucet is running really slowly, like drip, drip, drip,
Yeah.
you can't just like add 3 teaspoons of this stuff, because basically the bubbles coalesce and they form a big gas bubble.
Okay.
And then the first place that blood goes after a vein is to the heart and then to the lungs.
Oh,
And
wow.
so if the lungs encounter a big gas bubble, it basically blocks the lungs.
Yeah.
And so that can be really, really dangerous. So that was kind of like the first and biggest problem that with the sort of surfactant approach.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we moved to the opposite end of the spectrum and essentially created a solid shell polymer.
Okay.
Which we created a hollow core in, and the hollow core held a gas, which was great. But when we injected them into the bloodstream, we found pretty quickly that even though they were stable in storage forever,
Yeah.
in perpetuity, because they were a solid shell, we found that, a really critical component that the bubbles were really good at was that they dissolved quickly when the gas left. And the solid particles did not do that. And so we never even got past a mouse or a rat model, because we found very quickly that the amount of gas we could deliver in that setting was just like microliters. It was clinically irrelevant.
Yeah.
So then I have to credit Dr. Yifeng Peng that I co-lead the lab with now, who essentially came up with the solution now along with other people in our group, which is where we are now.
Okay.
And so essentially it is kind of the best of both worlds. It's essentially like a solid shell in storage and a fluid shell when it's injected in the bloodstream. And it that happens because of a pH trigger.
Okay.
So essentially, you're familiar with hydrogen bonding loosely?
Loosely, yeah.
Loosely.
I'm going back to high school.
Loosely familiar with hydrogen bonding. So basically, if the pH is such that there's a lot of hydrogen atoms on a molecule, then there's a lot of hydrogen bonding that occurs because of polarity and things like that. And so I'm probably going to get this wrong. They're a chemist. I can hear them already in my head saying like, it's not polarity. It's,
Sure.
Anyways, but at any rate, the essence of what's happening with this new generation of particle is that the particle is held together using hydrogen bonds in storage when the pH is, let's say 5.
Yeah.
And then and that makes them very, very stable, so they can be stored for months and years. And that's really important, because if you're talking about a drug that can be used in an ambulance or in an emergency room, it's got to be stable for a long time. Then when it's injected into the bloodstream, the pH of the blood, even if you're really, really sick, changes that constituency of hydrogen bonds, makes fewer hydrogen bonds, makes basically the particle fall apart.
Yep.
And the gas bubble that is inside then dissolves super, super quickly, because it's not stabilized by anything, unlike the microbubble situation.
Yeah.
And so that essentially saturates the blood with oxygen essentially immediately. And then all it leaves behind are these little nanoparticles that can be excreted into the liver and into the bloodstream. Or excreted into the urine and by the kidneys, and then metabolized and basically like excreted out through the intestines by the liver. So to answer your question directly now with that sort of background, we created this particle. We tested it in a rat model. The moment that I had the most hope, that currently still drives the hope that I have, is the first time we treated an animal model of cardiac arrest with this drug. So previously, we were treating animals that had a very, very low oxygen level, but still had normal blood flowing. Okay. And now this model was a model that was funded by the NIH, National Institutes of Health. And so we got a big grant from them to test the drug in this setting. Yeah. And basically, this is a situation in which an animal was getting CPR.
Okay.
Where blood flow is really, really low. So it's really testing the limits of the ability of this drug to oxygenate in a very, very unpredictable physiologic setting,
Yes.
if that makes sense. Because when you're doing CPR, you're getting about 30% of the blood flow of the heart.
Yeah.
But it's, not normal and it's unpredictable. It's not totally consistent. And so we injected this drug for the first time, and the oxygen level went from, let's say, 20% to 100% in like 3 heartbeats.
Wow.
And the heart just started beating again. And it was a moment where I was like, okay, now I feel like I would give this drug to a patient. None of the other times before I had tested this,
Wow,
had I ever felt that way. I was always like, oh, we got to give the drug exactly right, and it's got to be exactly the right rate.
Yeah.
And this is a drug, in a code situation like we have in the hospital, you're kind of just like pushing things with a lot of force to get it into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And I felt like with this drug, it's like, okay, you're ready for prime time.
So at this point, you've had this wild success with the animals, with rats.
This was a pig study.
This was a pig study.
Yeah,
Okay. And the pig study was the last success. That's correct.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. I'd read about that.
Yeah.
And was there how long in your study, was there a period of time that the heart stopped that you were able to keep them alive without brain damage?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So this model that we did was what's called a 12-minute set asphyxial arrest. So it's basically a situation like you would encounter in a hospital or some other setting in which you would have a blocked airway or airway, you give a patient medications to try to put in a breathing tube.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. Lots of clinical situations which we can talk about, but basically a situation in which a patient is not getting an adequate amount of oxygen into their bloodstream for 12 minutes. And that can do a lot of damage. It seems short, but even 2 to 3 minutes of of lack of oxygen, meaning low oxygen level, followed by low blood flow, which is an asphyxial cardiac arrest, can do major, major damage. And so this was a 12 minutes of cardiac arrest model. And so as you sort of suggested, the paper that we published last fall showed that both in survival, activity level, brain imaging by MRI, lab markers, they were all significantly, dramatically much, much better in the treated group.
Wow. With 12 minutes of their heart being stopped.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So when do human trials start?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of steps between where we are and where we want to go. The next step and things that we're very happy and thankful to have support both from the NIH, the Department of Defense, and Harvard Medical School. The Blavatnik Family Foundation has a $1 million grant that we received, which we're really excited about. So with all of those things, sort of grant funding agencies working together to fund different aspects, our next big step is to work on manufacturing.
Okay.
And so where we are now is before, we were kind of manufacturing at small scale to basically do this in animal testing.
Yeah.
And now that we are starting to get ready to think about human testing, we need to solve some key manufacturing problems. So the first big manufacturing problem is that, we've been making this in an open setting.
Yeah.
Meaning like in a beaker with a homogenizer, which is basically like a fancy blender.
Yeah.
And so creating a closed sort of sterile environment where all the things that touch the drug are sterile and can be, autoclaved or sterilized in some other way is a big step.
Yeah.
We're making really nice progress on that front.
That's great.
And then we're going to be doing some other sorts of experiments to try to inform how we think about doing what's called a phase 1 safety trial. So we're going to have to be able to move the drug from testing it in animals to doing a first in human trial. And so how we design that and how we sort of think about that, architect that trial is what we're working on right now.
All right. Have you been tempted to try it on yourself? Before you answer, I just want to warn you.
Okay.
That's usually how the villains in Spider-Man movies are made.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the brilliant scientist is sick of all the red tape. Why wouldn't this get approved? They try it themselves. Next thing you know, you're the Green Goblin or a lizard. But has there been part of you is like, you know what? I want to be the first.
Yeah. No, not for this one.
Okay.
So I'm doing some other clinical trials where I have tried like inhaled hydrogen on myself because, that was a pretty, benign thing that manufacturing was already worked out. Once we have sterile manufacturing, I would consider it, but I probably won't. I think I'll probably just do a proper phase 1 clinical trial.
Okay, good, because I don't want to see you running around New York chasing a guy in a spider outfit. Okay, so there's so many different questions that come out of the success of injectable oxygen. The World Health Organization has human death defined as the irreversible cessation of heartbeat and breathing.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say then that you are technically, with this injectable oxygen, bringing the dead back to life?
Interesting. Well, I think there are a lot of areas of medicine that are sort of in that field, that genre. Anytime that we do CPR, if we don't do CPR, that patient technically will die. And so every person out on the streets, every kid in school, shout out to Benjamin, who learned how to do CPR.
Yeah.
So anybody who does CPR out on the streets is technically bringing someone dead back to life. So I do think that's really important to say. In the hospital, sometimes we'll put patients on heart-lung bypass or ECMO support in the setting of cardiac arrest. And so that is also sort of bringing a dead person back to life. And so, I mean, of course there are limits, but this is contributing in that same way of trying to bring someone whose sort of physiology is not tenable, who, if they were just left alone, would die or would continue to be dead. But we operate in the intensive care unit in the pre-hospital setting in those few minutes in the sort of transition from life into death, and hopefully can make a big difference in bringing patients back to health in a way that is that they're healthy. And so really what my hope is that we not only increase the number of people who can be, adequately, we call it resuscitation, not bringing the, from death to life, but, because
I mean, they flatline.
Yeah, they are flatline. Yeah,
right. And like idiots like me hear flatline, it's like, oh, that's the end of it.
Yeah,
and
it is. Yeah. Well, it is pretty exhilarating to bring a patient back like that. But the important thing is the first few moments have to be done properly. So I do really want to encourage anybody listening, if you don't know how to do CPR, just go learn how to do it. Even if you can't take a course, you can just watch videos on how to do it. It's really not that hard. You really can't do any damage. Just, I got to do a little PR statement. Just do chest compressions. Don't worry about the breathing for, and then call 911.
I'll never forget when Damar Hamlin went down, Buffalo Bills, and everyone remembers that game. I was talking on the air on my radio show about it, and I got a text from you that morning.
Yeah.
And it was about, hey, everyone should learn
Everyone
CPR.
needs to know it.
And that stuck with
critical.
me, especially in that moment, somebody knew what they were doing and they saved them. All right. So this is, since for 19 years you've been developing this, there's been many articles. Every time, of course, you reach a point where you publish a paper and it becomes more of a reality.
Yeah.
I found an account called Sentient Plex, and they wrote, John Kheir of Boston's Children's Hospital developed an injectable oxygen particle that can maintain normal blood pressure oxygen levels up to 30 minutes, completely bypassing the lungs. Looks like drowning might soon be a thing of the past. And there's a video of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Are we getting dangerously close to turning humans into fish? I mean, this is how superheroes are made.
Yeah. So what's really, it's a good question. The short answer is no. All right. The first thing that I need to say is how much admiration I have for the design of the lungs and the cardiovascular.
I thought you were going to say Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Yeah, I
thought
barely
he was
know who that is.
Not bad.
The heart and lungs are incredible. The amount of gas that is exchanged across the surface area of the lungs cannot be matched by any drug.
Yeah.
And so, the use of this drug for doing activities
Yeah.
is really going to be basically non-existent, because really this drug can deliver a substantial fraction, but a fraction of what the body needs to just sort of stay alive.
Yeah.
And so, as you probably know, when athletes exercise, their oxygen consumption, meaning how much oxygen their body is using, goes up almost an order of magnitude or more.
Yeah.
So you and I sitting here just like chatting are probably consuming 200 or maybe 300 milliliters of oxygen every minute.
Yes.
Which is a lot. If you were to go and run a marathon, you could consume 3, 4, 5 liters per minute. So no one's going to be able to inject that into the bloodstream yet. If we were able to create a gas particle that circulates, that can pick up oxygen in the lungs and then goes to the body and delivers that gas, then maybe that's something that could be used as a doping agent.
Well, let's have some fun then. Let's have some fun, because you're kind of talking about like what's known as off-label uses. You know, I mean, we all know that. Like, Viagra was originally made for chest pain, caused by heart disease. Minoxidil was for high blood pressure. So I actually have come up with several potential off-label uses for your injectable oxygen.
I'm ready.
And you tell me what percentage you believe this would actually work. Okay. Let's start
with the current technology, or just like
let's go crazy. Let's think what this could turn into.
Okay, what it could turn into.
If everything works and they
these are purely hypothetical.
Purely hypothetical.
Okay, purely hypothetical.
Okay, injectable oxygen. Could it be used for the creation of a new super soldier with secret agents seeking through flooded tunnels without scuba gear, like James Bond, but biochemically enhanced?
Yeah. First of all, I will give a lot of props to the Department of Defense, who funded us through many, many dark days. In part, I don't think we were creating a super soldier, but we were trying to rescue soldiers in situations that they can't currently be rescued from.
Okay.
So if I take this in a little bit of a darker space than creating a super soldier, someone who is shot, who's injured, who has a chest wound, which are some of the most lethal wounds. Those soldiers can succumb to their injuries because they have blood loss and because they lack oxygen. Of course, in the front lines, you can't carry compressed oxygen because that's explosive if shot. Basically, the idea was that we create a drug that was not pressurized, but that you could inject through an IV or through an IO, which is goes into the bone for a period of time, and maintain the circulation and maintain oxygenation. I do think that is
save
possible
a potential. I mean, like, how many soldiers' lives could you save?
Yeah,
with that?
I mean, I don't know. I think we do well, not having injuries that are this extreme, but everybody's goal is for no lives to be lost, and so certainly there's room for improvement for sure, because as we all know and are thankful for, many soldiers give their lives for our freedom across the world.
Of course.
And so, yeah, if we can save one life, I'll consider it a success for sure.
How about firefighters, able to now save trapped civilians without being exposed to toxic smoke or carbon monoxide during a fire?
Yeah, great question. So the big limitation here that we have to talk about when it comes to any performance type of thing is that the drug that we're creating right now is a one-way gas carrier, number one, that is administered through an IV, number two.
Okay.
And so, that would require a firefighter to have an IV in place, which is not typical, or a soldier to have an IV in place, also not typical. And for there to be a pump, for there to be a syringe, supply of the drug, etc. So I think that's very, very unlikely in that situation. I think, right now firefighters depend on carrying compressed gas, breathing it through a mask, and that seems to work pretty well.
Okay.
But, if there ever were space for that to work, if there were something that we could inject ahead of time,
Yeah.
and allow them to have more oxygen carrying capacity over time, but they still would have to be breathing oxygen sort of the whole time. So I think likelihood is low for that one.
What about in the sports world? Basketball players who never have to sub out, triathletes swimming like dolphins, biking like machines,
Yeah.
and running like they forgot they even had lungs.
Yeah. Yeah, very low, but it does highlight an important point of physiology, which is that oxygen is very commonly the limiting step in someone's performance. And the reason that people perform better when they take, doping and raise their hematocrit, training at altitude, etc., is because they have a greater ability to deliver oxygen to their tissues.
Yeah.
And so, I think it'd be very easy for committees, etc., to test for this, because it would be in the bloodstream and you should be able to see it by any number of different ways. But, is it conceivable to me that this drug could be morphed into something that enhances performance? Yes, it is. It is conceivable to me, but I think it would be pretty quickly. We're far away from that, first of all, because there's nothing that compares to hemoglobin. People have been trying for decades, many decades, to reproduce hemoglobin in a way that can be advantageous to performance or to survival or to patients with sickle cell, etc. There are a million reasons why we would want an artificial hemoglobin. It turns out hemoglobin is magnificently complex and elegant, and it's very, very hard. I don't like to use the word impossible, but we have not yet cracked the code on how to do that well. So we're far away.
Well, I have been reading too many books because I like too many mystery books because I wrote this. This is like maybe 2 a.m. I wrote this. What about faking your death like a pro? Like inject oxygen, slow your pulse, lower your breathing rate to nothing. The EMTs find you flatlined. You wake up in a coffin 2 states over. Congrats, you are off the grid. You're like Jason Bourne, but with better lungs.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Like you've wanted to disappear forever, and you fake your own death by stopping your heart. Percentage chance that would work with injectable oxygen?
I don't think I see the connection with injectable oxygen, but what you're talking about is what we call physiologic hibernation.
Okay.
Where the heart rate slows down a lot. It's essentially the goal, like when we do heart surgery, we cool patients down to 18 degrees sometimes, and that really, really very much slows down metabolism.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. It is extremely protective, but it needs to be done sort of before an injury.
Okay.
Whether a human could accomplish that, outside of injectable oxygen, I do think that would be possible.
Wow.
I think, there are even companies that try to, preserve corpses. I don't know a lot about it, but I've done a little bit of casual reading.
Is this like the Ted Williams head thing?
I think so. Yeah, people they like go cryogenically preserve something. They cool down to like a very cold temperature, and I shouldn't talk about things I don't know much about, but yeah, I know they exist.
Well, we're gonna write a book together because I already wrote the ending.
Okay.
It's right here. I already got it.
Okay. I don't want to wake up in a coffin though. That seems freaky.
No, that seems like hell on earth. Like you really gotta want it. Like you must have like bills to pay and a woman who don't love you.
Yeah.
Do you really want to get out of there?
Yeah.
Finally, what about competitive eating without chewing breaks?
Oh, wow.
With injectable oxygen, could I get up there and without having to breathe, could I kick some Joey Chestnut ass?
That seems like you need a better hobby. I mean, I don't know. Could you eat without breathing? Yes, I would say technically you could.
I'm in.
The chances.
When can I be the first human guinea pig?
You're gonna have to get an IV. You're gonna have to receive like a continuous infusion.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can make that happen, Rich.
Excellent.
We can make that happen.
I'm in.
Yeah.
You are my key to hot dog eating glory on the 4th of July.
Oh, I see. I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That is
yeah,
it.
I didn't realize. Okay.
You weren't originally a researcher. This is something because of this great idea you had. You felt that you were going to throw yourself into this world. Like, what is it like seeing
through the process of doing research, your idea from the beginning and having it essentially come to fruition at the end? What is that whole journey like?
Yeah. Well, we're not at the finish line yet, and nobody knows if it's a great idea yet. Well, that remains to be seen. Hopefully it will be, but we're not sure. Well, the process of research has multiple phases, and I think it's cool for the layperson to understand what that sort of looks like, especially in today's climate where it's not entirely clear whether people should support research or not. It takes a village, is the short story. There is so much risk involved in creating new technologies. Most things fail. That's well known. But the way we make progress is by overcoming failure, learning a lesson, and then moving on to the next thing and trying to create a solution that works. When you first start off, all you have is an idea. And I had the really good fortune of having the infrastructure of Boston Children's, an amazing mentor named Frank McGowan, who essentially said, John, this is a crazy idea. It's probably not going to work, but you can have a bench in my lab and you can try to figure it out. So space is one important thing. You have to be at a place where there's space. And so when we are talking about indirect costs, that creates an environment in which ideas can be, seeds can be planted. So if we didn't have a space, we would have never been able to do that. And Boston Children's has incredible research space infrastructure, an incredible supporting, cast around that, for which I'm very thankful. That's one thing. Then you need money to hire people and to do experiments. And so money can come from lots of different places. When people are starting off really, really early, it's really small foundation grants and philanthropy. So Boston Children's has an affiliated corporation called the Boston Children's Hospital Trust. And I have some incredible friends and contacts there and have been the very grateful recipient of many, many philanthropic grants. So these are, sometimes they're grateful families that come through, sometimes they're philanthropic organizations, groups, people. Every person, every dollar makes a difference. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you can benefit research, working through a hospital's trust or an academic institution's trust is a really great way to benefit research like this and get early ideas off the ground. And so, we leveraged some of the early money that we got, as well as some funding from the institution itself, to get some data. And so we created small sort of benchtop testing, things like that, to sort of show that the idea had at least early legs. But then, I kind of tell the story of how many times we failed. Those are many years of supplies, many years of people. Those cost millions of dollars. And so that can come, some of the philanthropic money we've gotten has been in the millions, but a lot of it has been through federal funding. And so federal funding plays a very important role in technology development because it really funds fundamental research. It funds, how are we going to, we have this big problem in healthcare. How are we going to create the next solution to it? And of course that becomes a company. Of course that is good for the American economy, but that's far removed, right? Like it half or the majority of things that get funded are going to fail, but the things that succeed are amazing. I mean, think about Ozempic and how many lives that has saved, and how many quality of life that's improved. That is like the, I don't know the stats on this, but that's like the 100th thing in a line of things that all of these first 99 failed. But, the 100th one was a big life-changing thing for society, for the world. And so, that's how I really hope that the lay public, especially of this amazing country, understands that when taxpayer dollars are going towards research, it's really going towards changing the world. And it's going towards creating a better world for all of us, solving problems that every one of us one day might face or currently face. And so that's what research dollars do. They fund people who have ideas and training to solve those ideas, or solve those problems with their ideas. They fund them to keep going. And so if I had not gotten money during those dark days of, trying polymers, trying this, trying that, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And, who knows where we'll be in 5 years, but I hope we're standing at someone's bedside, trying to rescue them from hypoxia with an injectable drug.
Well, you're speaking right to, my heart here, because my wife was saved by a drug after her third relapse of cancer, one that was partially developed by funding towards Harvard Medical School. So I know how important the government funding is, and I know how precious it is and what it truly means. So, hearing you tell that, I'm from your lips to God's ears. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Well, John, this was great, man. And, congrats on the success. I know you've still got a way to go. I know you don't want to spike the football yet.
No, we're not. There's no gronking happening.
There's
here.
no gronking yet. Oh, God, I miss Gronk.
I miss Gronk too.
Oh man, I saw him like
Bring
running
them all
around.
back.
Bring them all
Edelman,
back. Jeez, he comes to
TB12,
Boston all the time. Bring him
Come
back.
on back to Boston, guys.
Well, here's my weird. All right, I'm gonna get nerdy just for a second. Weird way to end an interview like this. But here's my dream. My dream is, now that flag football is an Olympic sport,
There it is.
Tom Brady is going to come back and be the quarterback for the Olympic flag football team.
Okay.
Belichick will be the coach,
Okay.
and you're bringing back Gronk and Edelman as well.
Oh my gosh.
Dream.
It's a dream.
Just bring back the Patriots
It's a
and let
dream.
them just kick the asses of Slovenia and Russia and all the other countries, whoever, if they're allowed to compete, like everybody. How great would it? Tom Brady, you're doing it for America now.
Amazing. Amazing.